Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about Distillate, a cannabis derivative. We made a video about Distillate yesterday, so we're going to follow up on that, as well as our panel discussion with Jim Moroso of Lucid Labs that we did a couple weeks ago during Hemp Fest. Those videos will be coming up, so a little teaser to come back and take a look at all the videos we did with Jim about cannabis oil and concentrate, extracts, and everything. On the line with us to talk about Distillate today is Dan Kimmis, our CBD correspondent with Good CBD Products.
Yeah, I am on the line. Today we'll talk about hemp-derived stuff. It's going to be fun. Yeah, this will be neat.
So the DEA just allowed for more cannabis research. I'm not sure how much of that is going to flow into the derivatives being, cannabis concentrates, including distillate, isolate, CBD, CBG, CBN, TCV, all of those amazing rare cannabinoids. So you have a story for us, do you not?
Yeah, I do. It's funny, since we are on the ground, one of the things that happens really often is, asked to help find things or source things and all of that. And I was just going to share a little story about the wild market of essentially, we'll say commodity sourcing, or in this case, CBD distillate sourcing, and what, a day in the life can look like when you're in this space right now with all the zany stuff going on. So, I don't know, do you want me to go off, or what do you want?
Yeah, I'd like to hear about it. Me and Tom Howard, he's with Cannabis Legalization News. He's a lawyer out in Illinois. And we kind of talked about the wholesale spot pricing. Apparently, Illinois had 18,000 acres of hemp that they wanted to make. And then there's some law where it's offline, essentially. They're not able to produce it for some reason. You'll have to check the podcast. I don't remember. But definitely is affecting the price. So I'd like to kind of hear your story and kind of see how that translates to this region and what's going on.
Yeah. So this is a story of a unicorn. Okay. So this is a story of, I got called up and asked to help source some distillate. And in this case, it's in the 60 to 80 liters a month range, right? So a fairly significant volume of distillate when you're talking about something that typically ranges in the $3,500 to $6,000 a liter price point, depending on who you call and what you find out. So anyway, okay, so we are on the ground, and we do know the know, and we do talk to the people and all of this. So over the last month, I keep hearing stories of somebody who has a customer and they want me to help them find, distillate. And I keep digging through layer upon layer of basically brokers, right? Where you call somebody and you say, hey, do you have the stuff? All of that. And what you find out is in this market space right now, there are a lot of people who can't actually lay hands on the product, right? So I put this one to bed. I was pretty sure this wasn't real. And I put it to bed. And then here this last week, Chronic, I got a call from somebody. And they said, hey, I'm looking for, 80 liters. And I laughed, because again, at this point, I've had about 12 different contacts on this one. Okay. And we started talking. And this is the actual customer. Okay. And they, they're like, we hear you're the guy. And I, again, I'm like, no, I'm not actually the guy. I know the people. Okay, that's the thing, is I know the people. I'm not the people, right? And we laughed further. So anyway, so here you go. I turn to the network. I say, okay, all right, network. Geez, I need, 80 liters. The network says, okay, we got you covered. And they come back and I get prices that literally range from $4,500 up to about $5,500 a liter. And this is way out of line with what the customer expectation is, right? And so I start dialing around, and here you go. Somebody that I've worked with for a long time, I was talking with them in passing, okay? And I said, geez, you couldn't, would you, can you? And they hit me back within a few hours and said, yeah, Dan, we can source that for you. And there's actually, by the time you get done, Chronic, there's room in there for both sides, both brokers, to actually make a reasonable mark, okay? And the customer's ecstatic. The customer wants to sign a 1-year contract, bearing in mind, market variance and market flux in pricing. And it would be basically, it's 80 liters a month for a year. And it looks to be fast tracking and moving along. And it's one of those things where, literally I've got 35 hours chasing around to get to the point where the last part of the conversation, the last part of the deal seems to be, we're going to hit it about 5 or 6 hours to actually consummate the final part of the deal. And then just from, I guess, the hard part of the business, the numbers, okay? It's a little over 300 grand a month. And then the yield for both the brokers is in the 10 G's a month space. So there's about 20 G's worth of, margin or mark being left in there for the people doing the work. And that's just neat. Like in my case, it's going to get sliced up 4 ways. I don't care. For the phone calls, I laugh. Anytime I make any money in the cannabis industry, I laugh. So
well,
there you go. That's my
knowing
Distillate
what
story.
the price was, right? So you weren't just going to be settled with the $4,500 or $5,500. You knew what the right rate was. You had the Rolodex to find out who had that product at that price, and then you made it happen.
Yep. Well, and
what is your opinion though about with CBD being banned in Washington? Do you think that the excess amount that they're now not able to sell is going to decrease the price?
Well, it's interesting. I was reviewing some of the states that are enabling CBD beverages and edibles, et cetera, versus those that are not. And then, again, the nature of, will the dominoes continue to fall in terms of further restricting the CBD market? At the moment, my answer is this. I think the pushback's going to be so severe that you're going to see these things sort themselves out. At the same time, again, in the short haul, it is impacting price. And in fact, I think it's part of why this is available. So.
I think if anything else, they'll just add the transportation cost and get it to somewhere like Illinois, who just had 18,000 acres offline. But to your point, I flew to Toronto last year to sign a deal with a huge company that has 300,000 hectares in Brazil, 10,000 acres in Montana, and I don't even know how much in the Toronto area. And then when I came back to order some liters of isolate and distillate, they weren't able to fulfill that order at all. So there's definitely some weird stuff going on when you think the company's legitimate enough to travel the other side of the country to another country on the other coast, and they still can't fulfill orders. That's pretty bizarre. So I think with the impact on the West Coast, making it illegal for CBD edibles and beverages, it will allow for some more diversification. Now that the DEA fully made it known that hemp is not a controlled substance, that's a game changer.
Yeah, the nature of the trickle down of information, right? One of the things that's funny is, it's like drinking from a fire hose when you try and stay on the pulse of what's going on in this industry. And at the same time, if you don't, honestly, you can find yourself very flat-footed in an instant. A rule can change, a regulatory body can come online, a market can open or close literally in the blink of an eye. It's very interesting.
So I'll ask you a question I asked Jim Moroso. What's changed in extracts or concentrates in the last 5 years, and where do you see it going in the next 5 years?
Oh, scale, brother. This is the thing, is that, so I, just from a context perspective, I come from the regulated cannabis side, okay? And in the regulated cannabis space, there's a certain, you talk about, ounces and pounds and hundreds of pounds and maybe once in a while a ton. Okay. Well, now come over to the hemp side, right? Where you're talking about thousands of pounds, tons, tens of tons. Okay. And then what it takes just from a capacity standpoint to process those kinds of volumes, and how those processors, again, it's like an arms race. You got to pick which day you buy the gun, because you can be buying something that's already been, essentially superseded that's already outdated in the market you can be implementing and literally find yourself where you bought last year's model if you're not careful. And then part of cost of business is literally understanding that, yes, the price of X commodity, distillate, isolate, whatever it is today, it's a moving target, and what you're going to be processing or refining for, different cannabinoids, etc., all of these things are also moving targets. That is again, it's not an impossible business. I want to be clear. It's not impossible, but it is a very active business, and one that you got to keep you got to wear your track shoes. You got to be able to move, man.
Peace of mind, I think, will come with GRAS and GMP. Can you explain what both of those are?
Yeah. So GRAS, generally recognized as safe, and then GMP, good manufacturing practices. Those are both acronyms, and then they basically stand for a regulatory standard. Okay, and then they each impact the hemp farm, if you will, differently, but they are both standards with which different regulatory bodies are using to measure, are you in compliance? And then what's interesting about, GMP has been around for a while. GRAS, it has, but it's new to the hemp space from, depending on how you look at it, and meeting that spec, being in a place to be, I guess, governed by that spec is something that's quite relevant. If you're a hemp farm, you're going to want to check out GRAS and GMP big time.
And back to the isolate
processor, I guess.
Back to the isolate that brought up this whole podcast. Is isolate as good as full plant extract?
Well, so it was actually distillate we were talking about, but in this case, no. I don't have a lot of opinions about this stuff. That is one opinion I do carry. Okay, which is, is isolate valuable? I guess I found isolate, frankly, by itself, it doesn't affect me well. I kind of get rushed up. I feel almost a little bit agitated. Okay, and then aside from my personal experience, essentially it beats no cannabinoid in your system, I think. Okay, this is opinion. But at the same time, no, it's nowhere near close to whole plant. And in fact, recently I've had a chance to touch some different crew that are essentially using isolate and then different cannabinoids derived from other sources aside from cannabis to essentially recreate a whole plant spectrum. But it's not really a whole plant spectrum, right? Because a true whole plant spectrum is hundreds, not 5 or 10 or 15 different markers in the scale. So again, is isolate, awesome? Probably. Is it as awesome as whole plant? Not even close.
So in addition to giving a teaser about this interview with Jim Moroso at the World Trade Center during HempFest a couple weeks ago about extracts and cannabis concentrates, there's going to be a little bit of a teaser as well. We're going to add a weekly section to this podcast about a 6 to 7 day predictive analytical programming from a hedge fund. So the both of us were boots on the ground. We talk to money all day long, whether it's Canadian or individual hedge funds. And so this particular fund is a small fund. It's only 7 figures, but he has written an AI, like an analytical AI-based algorithm that has predictive programming up to 6 to 7 days. So we're throwing together a neat little index, and we're going to go over what we think is going to happen for entertainment purposes only. So I want to ask you, Dan, with your interactions with hedge funds and capital, how do you optimize capital investment for cannabis extracts, or what would you advise, where they go, what they do?
Yeah, this is the thing. I think that, again, looking at those that have put in place a plan to deal with the volatility and the opportunity of essentially rare or emergent cannabinoid harvesting. Okay, so to me, because again, these commodity prices are moving assertively downward. as people scale and as more capacity comes online. So it's really about finding the crew that can run right back over and find the new emergent and be in a place to already be extracting that and taking that profit. You know, when you look at some of these, you know, the difference right now of some things that were, you know, 8 or 10 grand a liter or kilo a year and a half ago, right? And now they're a third of that, they're half of that. Yet there are some new emergent commodities coming into the market that are, you know, 20 or 30 grand a liter right now. So again, let's go extract that one, right? So looking at teams that do that and looking at businesses that are nimble enough and capitalized well enough to stay and play in that space, that's my answer.
It's critical to be able to stay and play because we've seen people run out of cash. And interesting enough, Jim was actually a part of the coolest little product that I saw when the both of us went to the Indo Expo in Portland recently with the terpene extraction machine. When I ended up going home and Googling it, I saw Jim Makosa's face all over this thing. So I got to sit down and ask him, how does he spot extraction, innovation, and technology? And so you'll have to check that podcast out next week when it goes live. So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.